Do you and your family take separate flights to the same destination in the hope that if the plane were to crash, at least your children would still have one living parent left? Seems logical, right? But what if I told you that thinking was actually quite illogical?
That is the most illogical attitude.
After all, do parents take separate cars everywhere they go? Well, the answer to that is almost always no. As a matter of fact, entire families usually travel everywhere together in the family car without a second thought about the consequences.
Like this one.
Consider this statistic from Dr. Arnold Barnett with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Over just the past 3 years, more than 1.5 billion people flew commercially in the United States without a single fatality. Now compare that to almost 150,000 automobile fatalities in the United States in the last 3 years alone. Now ask yourself again, does it make sense to take separate planes? Maybe we should be asking ourselves, why aren't we taking separate cars? Is flying really the safest form of transportation? That's next on Maximus. Greetings everybody, Maximus here. So are you sometimes a nervous flyer? Do you know somebody who is? Every day, millions of people all around the world love to experience the thrill of hurtling down the runway while they swell with anticipation for that moment when they can leave the rubber on the runway and their troubles on the ground as they skyrocket into the wild blue yonder. However, for many others, that thrill can quickly turn into major anxiety about leaving the earth so quick and far behind. Yet curiously, few people feel the same anxiety when it comes to getting in the family car. We all know statistically that it's safer to fly than to drive. So then why is it so hard for some people to believe that flying is indeed safer than driving? Well, I guess doubting those statistics does make sense if you think about it. After all, how could flying in a metal tube 35,000 feet above the ground possibly be safer than being planted firmly on the ground? So given that, how can we really trust some random statistics? Well, that's simple.
Yeah, Mr. White. Yes, science.
That's right, Jesse. Science indeed. If you're a seasoned flyer, you already know that the odds are on your side. But if you're not, especially if you're a nervous flyer, then how can a bunch of numbers be expected to help soothe your worried subconscious? Well, knowledge, of course, is power, and numbers and statistics can also be powerful, but only if you let them be. Concern for our personal safety and self-preservation is at the core of our basic emotions. It's all about survival. Fight or flight, literally. Numbers, of course, are all about logic and reason. Still, people who have fears, be they real or imagined, have a much harder time digesting numbers and statistics than people who aren't predisposed to certain anxieties. So if you're one of those white-knuckle flyers, maybe for the next few minutes at least, while you're here calmly on the ground in front of your computer or on your iPhone, we can go over some of these numbers and hopefully be able to give you some comfort when it comes to understanding just how safe modern air travel really is. The high-profile Boeing MAX plane crashes in the news in recent years might have increased anxiety levels for many nervous flyers before boarding a plane these days. But even with those crashes, flying still remains the safest form of travel there is. The International Air Transport Association cites recent data from 2018 that there was just one major accident for every 5.4 million flights. This means your odds of being in a plane crash are astronomically low. How low? Well, according to MIT professor Dr. Arnold Barnett, using recent accident rates, he states that a person would have to fly on average once a day, every day for 22,000 years before they would die in a U.S. commercial airplane accident. That's right, 22,000 years. Let that sink in. For some perspective, 22,000 years ago, the Earth was still frozen and in the midst of an ice age, and while the woolly mammoth roamed free, humans had yet to even reach the Americas yet. Add to that the fact that as years go by, plane travel still continues to grow even safer each year. According to the online Fear of Flying Help course, they state that worldwide, safety has improved dramatically over the last 20 years of commercial air transportation. 30 years ago, fatal accidents on commercial jetliners occurred approximately once in every 140 million miles flown. Today, it's once in every 1.4 billion miles flown for every fatal accident, a tenfold safety improvement. The reason aircraft accidents are quite rare is because of the improved safety features and modern technological advancements in today's aircraft design. Some of these advancements include terrain awareness and warning systems that warn pilots if they're about to fly too close to the earth, mountains, or other terrain.
Terrain ahead. Terrain ahead.
TCAS, or traffic collision avoidance systems that alert pilots miles ahead to avoid the possibility of mid-air collisions with other aircraft. Additionally, advancements in weather radar and modern aircraft allow pilots to steer clear of dangerous weather and other weather phenomena, such as wind shear and microbursts. Also, major airports have been equipped with ground radar systems that warn air traffic controllers of a potential runway and taxiway collision and avoid such tragedies as happened on Tenerife in 1977. Add to that constantly improving pilot training and awareness, and you have the makings of the safest time in the history of aviation. All safety features I just mentioned are the technological building blocks of layers of redundant protections that have evolved over time. Captain Stacey Chance's website, the Fear of Flying Help course, points out that throughout aviation history there are carefully designed layers of protection. That means that many things must go wrong in exactly the correct sequence to cause an accident. For example, what would have to happen to break down the layers of protection for, let's say, a mid-air collision to happen? First, one pilot must allow the plane to stray into the wrong airspace. Next, the autopilot and redundant onboard flight computers would have to miss this altitude or course deviation and fail to warn the pilot flying. On top of that, the other pilot in the cockpit would also have to miss these errors. Next, the onboard TCAS collision avoidance system would have to fail to warn the pilots of a possible impending collision. Additionally, the air traffic controllers on the ground would have to miss the mistake as well as their flight radar systems, and finally the ground controller's supervisory chain of command above them would also have to miss these warnings. Only then, if two planes happen to occupy the exact same airspace at the exact same time in the universe, and none of the pilots in either cockpit on either plane or controllers on the ground fail to see both planes on a collision course, only then could a collision become a possibility. Like I said, that's a lot of layers. So take a minute to think about that. Now think about what kind of redundancy options your 2013 Toyota Camry has. Exactly. So at this point, you should be coming to the stark realization that the true aviation danger is not in the air at all. No, the true danger is in your car on the way to the airport. But hey, let's not just pick on the poor automobile, because it isn't only driving that's more dangerous or risky than flying. Let's take a look at a list of the many other ways being on the ground is much more dangerous than watching SpongeBob SquarePants on your iPad at 35,000 feet. According to the U.S. National Safety Council, your odds of dying from heart disease in the U.S. are 1 in 6. The odds of dying from a fall around the house is about 1 in 106. A bicycle accident? 1 in 3,825. How about a day at the beach? Sunstroke? 1 in 8,248. Sharp objects running with scissors? 1 in 29,334. Hornet, wasps, or bee stings? 1 out of 59,507. Then we come all the way down to dying in a plane crash. As of 2019, the U.S. National Safety Council said that the chances of dying in a plane crash were so small, they weren't even able to calculate. So the next time you hit a little turbulence on a plane and get worried, relax and rest assured your life is perfectly safe. That is, of course, unless there happens to be a bee chasing a wasp on a bicycle running down the aisle of your plane, carrying scissors, and they slip and fall. Well, then I'm afraid you're totally screwed. But in all seriousness, Fear of flying is a real fear, and I would never make light of it. Unfortunately, there are many skilled professionals all around the world that can help you overcome those fears if you need them. All you have to do is seek them out if you really want to take charge of your life and conquer that fear. Well, that's going to do it for now. Now it's your turn to let me know down below. Hey, if you enjoy the content here in the channel and you'd like to be a producer and help us keep bringing you more videos like this, maybe you'd consider supporting Maximus Aviation through the Buy Me a Coffee apps or merch links down below. And as always, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell. And remember, leave the rubber on the runway and your troubles on the ground. And I will see you next time in the air. Yeah, this is Maximus.